slaves to our heating and our air conditioning systems, I guess.
Yep.
But it is what it is. We go by on life, and that's what we got. At least we got air conditioning. So we have a lot going on right now with the NBA playoffs starting up. We're going to start with there, and then we're going to get into the NBA or NFL draft, which is only 2 weeks away. Of course, the Aaron Rodgers soap opera continues up this way. Before we get into that, we might as well get into OBJ signing with Baltimore.
Yeah. Honestly, OBJ is an upgrade over what the Ravens have at that position.
Yes.
Even let's just talk about the facts. We haven't seen OBJ in over a year. The last time we saw him
first half of the Super Bowl.
Was in the first half of the Super Bowl, and I'm not a huge fan of the guy, but honestly, he was playing pretty good. He started to get comfortable with Matt Stafford.
But he only caught 2 passes, and the people made it out like he caught 18 passes.
Oh yeah, I know. I've heard all the he was going to be the MVP and all this bull crap. I don't agree with that. But in the playoff run there and in the Super Bowl, he was starting to get comfortable with Stafford, and he was starting to play pretty well. But he's tore his knee. He's north of 30. He's had 2 major knee operations. Is he going to be the same guy? I don't know. And also, my question is, where in the hell did they get this $15 million contract? They were competing against themselves, and they gave him twice what some of the other teams offered him. So I think it was a good idea for them to get him. I think it may help him get Lamar. I think it definitely upgrades the wide receiver room, as I said. But $15 million is ridiculous.
Yeah, my whole feeling on it is, okay, I don't even get into the cash part of this. It's just that OBJ, you're right. He was starting to show, be a big part of the Rams offense, but that was because Cooper Kupp was having such a year that people had to double team Cooper Kupp finally.
Yep.
They finally had to go there.
Yep.
I don't know if he could be the OBJ that he was with the Giants where he first came up, where even if you double covered him, it wasn't going to help you. And that's what he's going to be going to Baltimore. He's going to be slotted in as their number 1 guy. Yep. So he's going to get the attention. I don't know if he's got the game to beat that attention anymore.
Yeah, I don't either. But I at least like the fact that they're trying to improve the wide receivers. I mean, that's been a problem for them
forever,
for years. I mean, years and years and years, forever, basically.
You can go back to Joe Flacco days.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have, even when they won the Super Bowl that year, they had a bunch of number 2s and 3s. And, the scariest thing to me about OBJ is that, his best year ever was his rookie year when he averaged 108 yards a game, and he's never been able to duplicate that. The numbers have just gone down and down. But maybe the year off helped him. We'll see. But, at least they signed somebody. I still think that the Ravens need to draft another wideout. Let's just be honest. I mean, they've missed on so many that, the position is still unsettled, and that means they need to draft another one. They drafted Tylan Wallace, the guy out of Oklahoma State. He's done absolutely nothing. They drafted Rashad Bateman, who, has played well when he's been healthy, but the problem is he's never healthy. They drafted the kid out of Notre Dame. He did pretty much nothing, and they've moved on from him. I think he's on the Steelers now, or at least he was. And, or no, excuse me, I think he went to the Bears. But they've drafted countless people. They just haven't hit on anybody, which is kind of surprising considering, heck, it's almost hard to miss on a wide receiver these days.
I mean, yeah, I understand. But is it because there are so many of them that they kind of overshadow each other, and it's hard to really get a look at who the real guys are in the draft? Because, like you say, there's so many that come out every year. And finding that one guy, especially in the way the college game has now taken on the passing, the spread and everything, a lot of these guys get stats, but maybe they're getting their stats against lesser opponents, which, when you get to the pros, all the cornerbacks can play.
Yeah, true. But the thing with me is I just think that the Ravens just have not been good drafting wideouts for whatever reason, whether that's their own doing or whatever. I just think about the guys that have been drafted. I think they need to draft somebody early. They've been trying to get hit on guys in later rounds, and that just hasn't worked. Look at last year's draft, 2022. The first wide receiver off the board was Drake London at 8. He's played pretty well so far. The number 10 pick was Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. He was the rookie of the year. He had over 1,000 yards, even though they had 3 quarterbacks. The next pick was Chris Olave from Ohio State. He had an amazing year, even though they didn't have a quarterback. The next pick was also Ohio State, Jamison Williams, who then went to Alabama. He started to come on, even though he was injured at the beginning of the year. And then Jahan Dotson was at 16. He did really well. The only one that really didn't do great was Traylon Burks, the guy that the Titans took at 18. But the first 5 guys all were hits. So I just think they need to draft somebody early. They need to find someone who can come in and play right away, and they need more help for Lamar if they want him to be successful.
And I want to just correct you on one thing. There were no 3 quarterbacks with the Jets. They were just human beings in uniforms. They were not quarterbacks.
I was being very loose with the term.
By any stretch of the imagination, they were not quarterbacks for sure.
No, I was being very loose with the terminology.
All right, well, we're going to get back to football in a little while, but let's get into the NBA playoffs. First of all, the first thing that stuck out to me when I was looking at the playoffs, how it's hysterical to see that the Brooklyn Nets are playing and Kyrie Irving is home. I just think it's just that just says it all. That's the basketball god saying yes.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to get your thoughts on what the Mavericks did. Okay, they've got the opportunity to make the play-in game. All they had to do was win the last 2 games of the season, and they would have been the 10th seed and would have been in the play-in tournament. And what do the Mavericks and Mark Cuban do? He sits Luka, Kyrie, Tim Hardaway, and sits all these guys out and essentially loses on purpose so that they can get the 10th pick in the draft. And I don't know if you heard, but they have been fined by the NBA. And I think they're going to be in pretty big trouble. What did you think about that when you heard that the Mavericks were doing that?
It's hard for me to really understand it because with the way the NBA is now, with the fact that they're all picking freshmen and young players. Why are you playing for draft picks?
Exactly.
I just don't get it. I mean, it is the NBA has become such a crapshoot in draft picks that I think they're devalued the draft picks. I mean,
yes.
Who is the number 1 anymore? We don't know anymore.
No, I agree. I think that's a great point. And also, let's just be honest, okay? The regular season in the NBA, it's not as important as it used to be.
No.
Okay. Nobody cares. In fact, half the time, the teams, don't even get their players until after the trade deadline.
Right.
And then lots of times due to load management, they don't even really get to start playing together until the end of the season. All guys are trying to do is get into the tournament and then try and make a run. That's what most teams are doing these days.
Right.
And I think with the trade for Irving, I thought that's what the Mavericks were doing. But then they go around and completely bail out of even trying to make the playoffs. And I think it's a very bad look for the league. I think it's a bad look for the team. And they got fined almost $1 million. And there may be more penalties because they essentially came out and said that the team was undermining the integrity of the sport. And they're not happy with what they did.
Wait, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and all sports now, it's crazy. It's just all of them undermining integrity. There is no such thing as integrity in sports anymore. I don't care what level you're talking about, or very little, should I say? I mean,
true, but I mean, still, most teams do try and win, and losing on purpose. Not only does it hurt all the gambling that now supports the league.
More worried about it.
Yeah, but you're losing on purpose. I mean, that is just that can be a serious problem, I think.
Well, and especially when you have one of the true talents of the game and you're wasting his career. I mean, I know he's still Luke is still relatively young. I mean, he's only what 22, 23. But
Yeah,
but still, you're wasting some great years of his. But and Cuban's not putting a team around him.
yeah, I agree. I think they're, but I mean, my thing is, um, even if even if they didn't have the greatest of seasons, you make the trade for Kyrie Irving, and then you've got two of the better players in the league on your team. If you win the play-in, you get into the tournament. Maybe you can win some games and get hot and do something. To lose on purpose, to not even to make it so you don't even get in the playoffs, I think is just absolutely ludicrous. And I hope they get in more trouble because this is the exact opposite of what they're supposed to do.
It's like what Pat Riley said years ago. He goes, when they talked about coming so close when he's with the Knicks, he goes, you don't understand how many things have to go right and how hard it is just to get there.
Yeah.
To win a championship you anymore. So you can't waste years. You
Right.
can't just throw away years and say, well, next year will be better. Because yes, next year could be worse. You don't know. You have Luka and you have Kyrie if he wants to play healthy. And in the playoffs, like you said, they would be, especially if they come in, they would be a nightmare for a few teams. Because you can get that's a pair that can put up 80 points between themselves on any given night. I mean,
Right.
so you never know. So you're right. I mean,
They lost. They lost. They ended up, being out of the playing tournament by like 2 games. Because they ended up losing all those games on purpose, and they finished the season 2-8. I mean, they were losing on purpose. Is
Right.
basically what it came down to, and I don't understand it. I thought the whole point of playing professional basketball was to win, and as you just mentioned, with the team they had. They weren't that far off. I mean, they finished, even losing on purpose, they finished 38-44. The Pelicans are 42-40. I mean, they were right there with all the teams that were in front of them, and they easily could have been a team that could have made some noise. Because let's be honest, I mean, this year there's no front runner. I mean, the Celtics and the Bucks, I think, are the two best teams, the two most complete teams. But in the West, there's like 8 games that are dividing 1 through 8.
Right. Yeah, and let's take a look at the brackets and the lineups right now, which we started out with the play-in games. I didn't watch any of the play-in games. I was watching baseball and hockey, but Atlanta took out Miami. Miami just fell off the face of the earth this year.
They're still in it. Actually, they play tonight. Yeah, they play the Bulls for the last spot. Whoever wins tonight between the Bulls and the Heat will get the final 8 seed.
All right, so Miami's still in it, but still, Miami shouldn't have been in a playoff tournament as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they were one of the better teams.
They've underperformed for sure.
And then you have the Lakers trying to, I mean, it's going to have to be. They reinvented themselves mid-season, and everything seemed to work out for him. They got to the play-in games, but this team is so fragile. I mean, LeBron is starting to show his age. He's not able to go to full season anymore. And of course, Anthony Davis has never been able to go to full season. So and then we had Chicago over Toronto, and Oklahoma City over New Orleans. Of those, what would be the best teams getting in from there?
Yeah, I mean, as we were just talking about, just to clarify, the Bulls are playing the Heat tonight. Whoever wins that gets the final 8 seed in the East. The Thunder plays the Timberwolves tonight. Whoever wins that gets the 8th seed in the West. So, then we'll know, the full Monty of the playoffs from there. But I got to be honest. I mean, yes, LeBron has shown his age as far as injury goes, but as far as numbers, it's crazy to me what he's done at age 38. I don't know if you saw this, but a player that the most points that a player of 38 years of age has ever scored in a season was Kobe Bryant,
who averaged like 18 points a game when he was 38. LeBron is 38 this year, and he averages 28 points a game. And, when he's out on the court, he's still, performing at a high clip.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. But yeah, I do worry about, that's the one thing that I worry about. I mean, the Lakers did what they wanted to do. They got younger at the trade deadline. They brought some guys in that can defend. They brought a couple guys in that can shoot. And look what happened. They've been winning, and they got healthy. But the problem is they've got Anthony Davis, who's Anthony Street Clothes Davis. He's always hurt, but he's got a foot problem. LeBron's got a foot problem. And D'Angelo Russell has a foot problem. So I worry about them just because of that. And with any of those three guys could go down at any moment, and then they're done.
And I want to talk to you about this while they're still on the table here. There was a lot of bad vibes, should I say, or reaction. I guess Zion was on the court just for warm-ups the other night, and he's dunking the basketball, and everybody's, well, if he can dunk the basketball, why is he not playing?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Apparently, I've heard a couple of different things. I've heard one, that he doesn't want to play for New Orleans anymore, and he just wants to get traded, and so he's kind of refusing to play because of that. I don't know if I believe that, because at this point, who the hell was going to want this guy who is never playing? So I don't know. But two, I've heard that he's physically able to play, but mentally he's not able to play. And I don't know what that means, but I guess it means he's scared to rejoin the team this late in the season. I have no idea. But how you can pull your hamstring in January or whenever it was, December, and then not play again till April, I have no idea. And you know me, I'm a huge Zion fan. Yeah. And I defend the guy at every turn, because when he has played, he's been ridiculously good.
Right.
But it's ridiculous at this point how often he's not played. The guy needs to get on the court. He needs to play. He needs to help his team. They have a chance to be a really, really good team if they just had him. I don't get it. I don't get it.
But this is one of the things I'm saying about the one and done people, because we've talked about it before. I mean, the level of immaturity they've got coming out, and then all of a sudden they get millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how you can feel hungry anymore, because you've already bought your parents' house for them. You're doing everything, you pay back your parents, your kids' educations are paid for, everything's paid for forever. And if you have a couple of injuries, I mean, I don't know if he does. And let's put it this way, as a guy who likes food too, when you're like Zion and you're not really a workout warrior, it's even harder.
Yeah, and the thing is, he was in good shape this year. He lost a lot of weight. He looked good, and then the hamstring, and then now he hasn't played again. I mean, I really do think something is going on that we don't know, because as you mentioned, he looked fine the other night in warm-ups. I've seen him on the court working out. He looked fine. I don't know if it's just he doesn't want to play for the Pelicans, or he just doesn't want to play. But it's not a good look at this point. And I would be pissed if I was on this team, because as we just mentioned, this team could compete in the West if they just had him.
Well, especially when, even though he had his troubles this year, I mean, the Memphis Grizzlies with Ja Morant are the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that was the number 1 and 2, and Memphis is already, even though, like I said, Ja had his moments this year where you were going, what the hell's going on with this guy? Yeah. But now at least his team made the playoffs comfortably.
Yeah, no, they did. Just think if they'd had him all year, how good the Grizzlies could be. But just the Pelicans, 42-40, they're second in the Southwest. I mean, this is a team who's missing a guy that averaged 28 points a game when he was playing, and they still, really, really competed. That trade for C.J. McCollum has just been gangbusters. He's averaging 21 points and 6 assists a game. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Jonas Valanciunas is averaging 10.2 rebounds. He's also averaging 14 points and 3 blocks. This guy is playing out of his mind, and some of the best basketball he's played all year.
Herbert Jones, the draft pick, has done well. Trey Murphy's been a good player. Brandon Ingram, when he's been playing, he's only played in 45 games, but he's averaged 25 points a game. So this team, in my opinion, could really do some damage in the Western Conference if Zion was on the court. And I think if I was on this team, I'd be completely pissed as why he's not playing.
I think it would be a safe bet to say that if Zion had been available, you could pencil in 10 to 13 more victories at least.
Guaranteed.
So
Guaranteed.
I mean,
and then you give them 10 more victories, and you're talking about them being right up there near the Grizzlies. In the second spot.
Right. Exactly. So that's how much he means. I mean, they got to figure something out. But the whole thing is like, here's the problem. You know what if Zion is playing possum, and for lack of a better term, and he's trying to get a trade going, two things. First of all, somebody will take a shot at him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But the other flip side of that coin is it's just, what type of a player is he? What is he going to be? Is he going to be the second coming of Kyrie? Is he going to be one of those type of players that if it's not going well, is going to want to go somewhere else? Or if it's not going exactly where he wants, does he want to go somewhere else? That's the thing about this stuff, and it's only going to get worse with the portals in the college where things aren't going right. These guys just pack up their bags, move on to the next campus.
That's the culture we live in now. Instead of working hard and making it right and making it work, these guys just take a pass. Anthony Davis was a perfect example when he was in New Orleans playing for the Pelicans. They were very close to being a team that could contend, and this was back when the West was utterly dominant. Right. Instead of waiting around for one more player, he wanted out. Right. Instead of working your ass off and beating someone out for a spot, you transfer and go to another school and become a starter there. And that's what the NBA's become. The Nets. Look at that. These guys all handpicked the team they wanted to go to. They get there. They don't win a championship in the first year, and all of a sudden, bam, they all won out, and then 2 years later, it's over. It's really disturbing.
But the Nets pulled it together and got themselves in, and I'm going to get rooting for them in the playoffs now.
Me too.
I would love to see them do a couple of rounds. I know they don't have a team that can get. Well, you never know this year. Who knows? But let's take a look. We started out with the. Let's start in the East. The Bucks and the Celtics have been the best throughout the most of the year. Philadelphia is sitting right there, and there's a team that everybody's been waiting. At least Milwaukee's won. So how about Philadelphia from the 3 spot?
This team has a chance. They've had a chance the past few years, but I feel like this year they even have a little bit more of a chance, because they have James Harden and they got rid of the liability that was Ben Simmons. So that right there, in my opinion, gives them a chance. They're playing in the first round against Brooklyn. Honestly, as well as Brooklyn has played, I think that the Sixers match up really well against them, and they should handle them. And let's be honest, the Sixers have the best player in the league. Joel Embiid is the MVP, in my opinion. It's not even a question to me of who the MVP is. It's Joel Embiid and nobody else. I mean, this guy has put this team on his back as well he should. He's going to win the scoring championship. He averages 33 points a game. He averages 10 rebounds. He averages 2 blocks. This guy's just been absolutely unbelievable, and they need to ride him. I mean, that's going to be the difference, in my opinion, as to whether or not they win it all. Is if they ride this guy like they should, get him the damn ball, live and die with him. Because with him taking shots, I'm comfortable with whatever happens. With him, with somebody else trying to do it, who knows? But they need to get him the ball, and they need to ride the big dude. Because if they do, I think they've got a shot at least to compete. The problem is that they're in the East, and they're going to have to beat,
Milwaukee
either
Celtics.
the Bucks or the Celtics, and that's going to be tough. But
or both,
or both.
The Cleveland-New York Knicks will be an intriguing matchup, I think, just because I think Donovan Mitchell is going to be have a little score to settle because he wanted to be a Knick, and the Knicks didn't make it happen. So I could see him trying to put up 40 every night for him. And the Knicks have overachieved. They've been the unknown good news story around here for most of the season. Unfortunately for them, that the Aaron Rodgers thing has overshadowed what they were doing. The Kyrie stuff that was going on in Brooklyn. Then you had the Giants who made the playoffs. Then you roll right into a baseball season. So the Knicks have been kind of overshadowed, but they are a really good story what they came together. Jalen Brunson, and if there was a secondary MVP, I'd give it to him.
He's had a really good year. He averages 24 points a game. He averages 4 rebounds, 6.2 assists. This guy's been a huge difference maker. And what it's done, not only has it helped, his career going to this team and being one of the main focal points, but it's helped RJ Barrett and Julius Randle because they have somebody that can actually distribute the basketball to them and run the point so that Julius doesn't have to run be a point forward anymore. Jalen Brunson's the point guard. So it's really made those two guys better. They basically have 3 guys that average 20 points or more. Julius Randle out 25, Jalen Brunson 24, and RJ Barrett right at around 20 points a game. So, I think that they have definitely overachieved. And you know what? I wouldn't be shocked to see the Knicks win this series. I really wouldn't. I know Donovan Mitchell's been amazing, but with the coach that they have in Thibodeau and with these 3 players as their nucleus, I wouldn't be shocked to see them win.
No, it would be good, especially, and you get some exciting basketball back around here for summer months. Okay, we don't know who facing Milwaukee yet. Celtics, Hawks. What do you think about that series?
The Hawks are a weird team,
Yeah, to say the least.
They're just a weird team. I do like how they went out and got Quinn Snyder, the coach. Who used to be, the coach out in the West and was he in Denver?
Yeah.
Denver or Utah.
No, yeah, you're right. Utah.
He was the coach in Utah for so many years, and they would have these amazing regular seasons and then falter in the playoffs. Well, now he's coaching the Hawks, and they have a legitimate superstar in Trae Young who can score points. So with that said, surely they can get over the hump. But no, I think the Celtics will handle them. I think the Celtics have been the best team, probably overall in the East, the most consistent team all year long. And as much as I like Snyder as a coach, and I think that the Hawks have had a pretty decent season, I just don't think they can match up with the Celtics over a series.
Isn't Snyder a dookie?
He was, yes.
I get it.
No, I never even really liked. I didn't even really like him when he was played there, but he's a good coach.
Yeah,
and he's kind of a weird guy, but he's a good coach, and I think he's done a decent job with this team. Is all I'm saying. But I don't think he's a good enough coach to beat the Celtics. I think this is a team that doesn't even have their coach, and they're 57-25.
Right.
I don't know if that guy's going to get his job back.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so right now, but we'll see. All right, so we don't know who the Nuggets are going to face yet, so we'll hold off on that, even though they've had a great year. Although Jokic, I guess that's the man who everybody's pushing to beat out Embiid, if anybody. But I agree with you. I don't think it should be.
No.
The Grizzlies-Lakers series. I mean, this is the young guns against the graybeards. Could be an interesting series. This could be the one that the Lakers could sit there and find their championship pedigree and maybe teach the youngins what they're going to have to do to really step it up. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's all comes down to health. If LeBron can keep playing like he is, the problem with LeBron right now is he's still able to function at a very high level on the offensive side of the court, but on defense, he's just not able, with this ripped tendon in his foot, he's not able to move
right
laterally like he usually does. So that's a little bit of a problem. The good news is they have some other guys that can help on the defensive side of the ball. Plus, they have the premier shot blocker in the NBA in Anthony Davis. If those three guys can stay healthy, if Davis, LeBron, and D'Angelo Russell, can play the entire series, I could easily see the Lakers upsetting the Grizzlies. And man, I would love to see it because I want one more run in the sun for old LeBron. I think he can do it. They've gotten better. As I mentioned, they got younger with the dudes they brought in at the trade deadline. And if they can just stay healthy, I could see them competing in this series. Maybe not winning it, but at least making it tough on the Grizz.
Are they going to let Shannon Sharp sit courtside during the series or what?
I hope so, man. I want to see him fight Ja's dad again.
Oh, man. Now we got the Sacramento Kings coming from nowhere to be everybody's dark horse. And they got a matchup against their neighbors from Golden State in the first round. That's a team that has been the most dominant team for the last decade, although, maybe a hangover, maybe some injuries, maybe whatever this year, but they weren't the regular season Warriors. But I don't know if I'm the Kings if I want the Warriors as my first round opponent.
No, I got to be 100% honest on this one. I had no clue the Kings would do this. I think Mike Brown is the coach of the year in the NBA without a doubt. I think he already won it, but even if he didn't, he should be the coach of the year. I mean, the job that he did in Sacramento is absolutely unbelievable. I had no clue that they could even come close to doing what they did. That being said, Warriors in 6 because Andrew Wiggins is back. He's healthy. He's going to play. They've got the rest of the team is healthy for the first time in a long time. They're getting everybody back at the right time. That's good for the Warriors. That's bad for the Kings. Dante DiVincenzo, the kid from Villanova who was playing on the Bucks, got traded over to the Warriors, and he's a guy that to me makes a big difference coming off the bench. He's a high energy guy. He can do a little bit of everything. He can defend. He can make the hustle plays. He can do the dirty work, the stuff that guys don't want to do. Gary Payton Jr., he's healthy again, as I mentioned. So is Andrew Wiggins. I just don't think there's any way that the Kings get by the Warriors in the first round. I can't see it happening.
And now we come down to another 4-5 matchup that should be intriguing. So KD got there. I'll be rooting for the Clippers, but it could be this could be a fun series to watch. What do you think about this one?
Man, I've never cheered for the Clippers in my life, but I will be now. I hated the Suns before KD got there, but now that he's there, I hate them even more. So I really hope the Clippers can do it. Do I think they will? I don't know. I mean, think about it. What has really happened since KD got there? I mean, has he moved the needle that much?
No.
For the Suns? I mean, not really. No. I mean, I just don't know whether he makes that big of a difference to me. I think this is going to be a good series. I think the Clippers are actually starting to play pretty well. The Clippers in their last 10 are 6-4. The Suns are 7-3. So they're both playing pretty good basketball coming into this. But the Clippers, did win their last 3 games. So I feel like they've got a good shot at knocking the Suns off. If I had to pick one right now, I think I'd go with the Clippers.
All right. So coming out of the West, I mean, this will be wide open. Who do you think? I mean, you gotta. The worst thing is all the experiences on the underdogs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the Lakers and the Warriors. I mean, those are the pedigrees. And they're, sitting down there low on the totem pole at 6 and 7. But if they get through, and like you said, if they're basically healthy, who wants to face LeBron or Steph?
Yeah, nobody. To be honest with you, Denver just doesn't really scare me for whatever reason. I know they've had a great year. I know they're 34-7 at home. I understand all of that, but they just don't scare me. I would take the Warriors over the Nuggets, to be honest with you. I might even take the Suns over the Nuggets, to be honest with you, just because of the playoff experience they've had the past few years. I don't know. I think it's crazy. I've never once in my life, seen the 6 seed as a bigger favorite to win the finals than the 1 seed. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is. But the Golden State Warriors, like I said, how many? What they won? 3 of the last 10, 4 of the last 10. I mean,
yeah,
they've been on a roll. So
yeah,
we will see. Let's move on to the NFL draft here a little bit. We still are waiting to see if Aaron Rodgers, which shade of green he's going to be wearing next year. Is it going to be Packer green or Jet green? The Jets, of course, as we talked about at the top, they were, floating that idea of bringing OBJ in to make Aaron Rodgers happy. Now, I guess they're going after DeAndre Hopkins. But we'll see if that can happen. Bottom line is, you got 14 days to make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it may occur on draft night. The main issue from what I've heard is, the Packers want this year's draft picks, and the Jets want to give them next year's draft picks, and also I think they're fighting over this salary. I mean, the Jets really want the Packers to pick up part of this $59 million, and the Packers don't really want any part of it. So, I understand. I think they're a little bit closer than some people are leading on. I think it'll get done. I think the Packers are ready to move on finally, and I think Aaron Rodgers has made it very clear he doesn't want to go back there. I just don't. I said this 4 weeks ago. Get it done. I mean,
yeah.
I'm so sick of talking about it. I'm so sick of hearing about it. If you're actually going to do it, then frickin' do it.
If you're the Jets and you really believe you are a quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl title, if you think you're that close, if you think you've got everything in order, this should have been done already. And or like we said last week, kick the tires on Lamar, do something, but get yourself in motion. Right now, you're sitting around, and the more you wait, the more your fans get upset, the more it looks like you don't know what you're doing. And thirdly is that, there's a chance it won't happen.
Yeah. Well, and as you mentioned, get it done, because you've already blown all your other opportunities. You missed on Derek Carr. You missed on Jimmy G. You missed on every freaking option that you could have had. Everyone knows that this is your last bet. Right. So overpay, I mean, eat the salary, give up the first round pick, give up the second, whatever the hell it is they want, give it to them and get him on your team. And do the best you can with what you've got. I don't understand why they're fighting it now. If you were really fighting it and you really didn't want to give up this much for him, then you should have made an offer for Lamar. You should have made an offer for Derek Carr. You should have made an offer for Jimmy G. All those ships have sailed. Hell, Baker Mayfield's gone.
Right.
So at this point, it's Aaron Rodgers or bust. You're going to have to overpay because you're competing against yourself. So
exactly.
Get it done and move on.
And you know how bad you're going to look if you don't get it done, and you're left with Tim Boyle. Who else is on the team now? Tim Boyle, Zach Wilson, and I forget who else they brought in. A bunch of no names. I thought a good sign was when they brought in Tim Boyle because he was, he was a backup for friggin' Aaron and the Packers for 5 years, so maybe he was a good golf buddy for him. So maybe I figured that's why they were bringing him in to get Aaron to come in. But, I don't know. You sit on draft choices, and let's face facts. Joe Douglas has done a good job with the draft since he's gotten there, except for Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is you can't wait around for him to make another mistake with a Zach Wilson or a Sam Darnold. Give it the draft choice.
Yeah, you've already proven you can't draft a quarterback, so don't act like you're going to do it here. I think I really don't understand why they still have Zach Wilson on the roster. They already know that he is not going to be their starter. They know that this guy is not going to be an NFL. He's not an NFL caliber player. I told you this, Joe.
Yeah.
2 years ago? I said, Joe, this guy. I've seen him play live. I've watched his tape. I said, I mean, he's an okay college quarterback. He makes some good plays, in college, but I said, this guy's not an NFL quarterback, and he sure as hell is not a top 10 NFL quarterback. I said, I don't understand what all the hoopla is about. And I said, whatever team takes him is going to make a big mistake. I didn't know it was going to be my Jets moving up to take him at 2. It just proves that they've just are horrible at picking quarterbacks. Pay Aaron Rodgers, make the trade, get it done, and roll the dice, because, I mean, they played so well last year with no one that could even throw the ball 10 yards.
Right. If they were a quarterback, they probably would have been in the playoffs, maybe been a higher seed.
I agree.
They wouldn't have. I mean, they were, 2 games out of the playoffs as it was?
Correct.
Or 1 game out of the playoffs? I mean, who knows? So let's take a look at the draft all together. Here we got, of course, the first round will be the Panthers and the Texans. Panthers are ready. I guess they picked their quarterback, or did they go with Alabama's quarterback?
There's been first, all I heard was that they were going to take Stroud, and that Frank Reich really liked bigger quarterbacks, that he's always had a big quarterback, going back to Phillip Rivers and going back to Wentz and going back to Matt Ryan and everybody, that he's really all about the bigger guy. And then the last 2 weeks, all I've heard is that they don't like him and that they're all in on Bryce Young. I don't know which is the truth at this point. I'm very confused. But I can tell you that they're going to draft a quarterback. They're going to draft the one that they like, whether it's Bryce Young or it's Stroud. I think that they're going to get their guy, and they're going to have a dude that's going to start from the beginning of the season. Honestly, for CJ Stroud's sake, I hope that he goes to the Panthers, because whoever goes to the Texans is going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, they're going to get their asses kicked. I mean, the whole thing about the Panthers, what drives me crazy with it is, why are you so smug? Why don't you just come out and say who you're taking? I mean, you control. It's like, yeah, this is who we're taking. And he doesn't really have a good choice to go anywhere else. I mean, I don't think you'll be able to pull an Eli Manning or anything like that. So it's like, make the choice. I mean, because they should have the contract all set, everything ready to go draft night, because they own it.
Well, and they moved up, okay? They made a big push to move up and take the Bears' number 1 pick.
Right.
And so you know who you want. Why not announce it? Why not make this guy know? I mean, I think he probably the guy probably already knows, but why not just announce it and get it over with? I don't understand the secrecy at this point. Make it known who you want. Make him feel like you really want him, and get the contract done. All that stuff. Start printing jerseys, whatever. I just know that they know who they're taking.
They have to.
They wouldn't have done this trade and moved up to the number 1 spot if they didn't have the guy who they wanted.
Exactly. And then, as we said, the Texans, who need everything, including a quarterback, will get the second quarterback. Now we come around to the Cardinals, another team that needs, well, they have their quarterback, whether they like it or not, for the next foreseeable future. I don't know if Kyler will ever become what we think he can become. I mean, he's definitely a great guy to draft if you're playing a Madden game, because he's got all the attributes where he'll score a bunch of points if you're playing on video game, but video doesn't translate onto the field. What do you think about the Cardinals?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of rumors that the Cardinals are shopping this pick, and I think they're factual rumors. I think there's a lot of fact to it. I think the Cardinals feel like they can move back and get more help. I think that the new regime that's moved in has realized that they need, more guys.
Right.
And so I think it would be a good idea for them to move back, get some additional capital, and let somebody jump up here. Now, I could also see them staying put, because they really do need, an edge rusher. They've got to get somebody. If they could stay right there at 3 and grab the kid from Alabama,
Will Anderson,
and get Will Anderson on their roster, I think that would be the best move they could make. Stay right there, take the best player on the board, and make your team better. But, it's Arizona, so they probably won't do that.
Did you hear Chris Sims was tearing apart Will Anderson, saying he's not that good a player?
Yeah.
I look. I let's put it this way. I mean, Chris Sims. I mean, I know he tries to give the weird take, and that's his thing. That's his thing. I remember when he said Jacoby Brissett was a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. So it just. But please, I mean, I'm not a big Will. I saw Will Anderson play his worst game this year against Texas, I think, where he was getting penalties in the first half all over the field. But then the second half, he got it together. So don't worry about it.
Let's talk about this guy, okay, for 1 second here. 3 years at Alabama, 34.5 sacks, 58.5 tackles for loss, 204 total tackles. This guy – it's just he's a production machine. He won the Nagurski Award 2 years in a row. He's pretty much unblockable. He's pretty durable. He played in 13 games his first year, 15 games his second year, and 13 games last year. He doesn't get hurt. He's fast. He's strong. He's got the pedigree. His dad was a Ring of Fame honor player for the Bengals. He's 6'4", 235. He's got the height. He's got the weight. I just think he's a no-brainer in my opinion, and that's why if I was the Cardinals, I would stay right there at 3, and I would take him. And I've heard rumors that the Texans are talking about potentially taking Will Anderson at 2 and trying to get the quarterback later. They have, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the Texans have 2 picks in this draft.
12.
They have 12. They have 12 as well. So they have the ammunition to take Will Anderson at 2 and then move back up. I just don't know how they feel about these other 2 quarterbacks. The other 3 quarterbacks. If they feel really highly about one of these other guys, they could do that. They could take Anderson at 2 and then move back up to get the other guy they want.
That'd be an excellent move, actually, because now you're taking care of both sides of the ball.
Exactly.
And you got a defensive coach. And you're giving him a defensive weapon to begin with.
I agree, and they need a difference maker on defense. They haven't had one since J.J. Watt, and you've seen what's happened.
And then we have the Colts sitting at 4. What do you think about the Colts?
The Colts to me are the most intriguing team in this entire draft because the Colts do not have a quarterback at all. Yeah. And they need a guy. They don't want to rent. They've already said, they've shouted it from the rooftops that they do not want to rent a quarterback for another season. So they're going to draft somebody. The question is who? I think that they feel like they're going to sit right there where they are. I don't feel like they're going to move. I think they want to sit where they are and they want to take they're hoping whoever it is they really like is going to fall to them because you haven't really heard who it is that they like because they don't want anybody to know. They just want to sit there and they want to pray that whoever it is that they want falls in their lap. And, for their sake, I hope it does.
Yeah, I just have this feeling Will Levis is sitting there with his Colts jersey on at the end of the day just because it's the Colts. I mean, although they did get it right with Manning and Luck, maybe they'll get it right this time as well. Who knows?
Yeah, they did. They definitely had the opportunity to take Ryan Leaf, and they passed on that. So, but that was when their Hall of Fame executive Bill Polian was running things, right? And they ran his ass out of town, and they really haven't been good since.
No. And then we got the Seahawks sitting at 5, the surprise team of last year. Geno Smith. This is going to be an intriguing thing because, Geno looked really good for 2/3 of a season last year. And in the last month, not so much. And that can be a couple of things. First of all, it could just be the way the season goes. People were beat up on the Seahawks at the end of the season. It also could be that defenses were catching up with what they were doing with them. They figured out, what to do to stop or to contain his stars, the running game and his wide receivers, and put it all in Geno's hands. And, maybe Geno isn't the answer. He's got to be their answer now. They're not going to be sitting at a quarterback now, but what are they looking at?
This to me, besides the Colts, is probably the second most intriguing pick of the draft because the Seahawks have got house money, right? They had a pretty good season. They made the playoffs. They look like geniuses for trading old Russ and rolling with Geno Smith. Everybody thought they'd be the worst team in the league, and they ended up, playing really, really well. Now they did fall off a little bit at the end, but there was a lot of factors that contributed to that. I'm not giving up on Geno just because things didn't go 100% their way down the stretch. But just being 100% honest, the contract that he signed, although he's getting rewarded, he's getting some guaranteed money, they can get out of it in about a year or two. Okay, really, he's there this year, probably on the team next year, but they could start to move off of him in 2 years. And, I wouldn't be shocked if they draft a quarterback, but really I think they're going to go with an edge rusher. I think they want to get somebody who can disrupt what the other team wants to do. And honestly, if I had to take my cash and throw it down, I would say that they're going to draft Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. This guy is kind of underrated and kind of flying under the radar, but this guy can do everything. He's 6'6", he's 271, he's got extremely long arms, he's got big hands. This dude is fast, he's strong, and he's got production. Last year with the number one pick in the draft, I just wasn't 100% sold on that dude from Georgia because he had 4 sacks. Okay. Right. They were all talking about, the ceiling he may have and what he could do. And I really wasn't that impressed with him this year. Well, Wilson, he came out and led the league, the Big 12, in tackles for loss. He had 14 sacks. I think he had 11 sacks in 2020. This guy can do it. He had 13 and a half sacks the year after that. This guy can get it done. And, he was an All-American. He was all-conference, even kept playing, even when he had a foot injury. This dude is the real deal. And he just looks to me like a Pete Carroll type guy. I would be shocked if they didn't take him.
Well, I'm telling you, the one thing I look at the Seahawks and I look at the team behind them, the Lions, and both of them, although you would sit there and you look at them and you're not that impressed, you look at their opportunities here. The Seahawks, San Francisco, they don't know who their quarterback's going to be at all right now. Their defense is fantastic. Their skill players are phenomenal, but there is a big question mark quarterback there. The Rams look to be in rebuild mode. They might try and steal if they can get somebody up, but as you've said, through cap hell and people retiring and stuff, the Rams look like they're semi-rebuilding. Arizona's a mess. If I'm Pete Carroll, I'm going, my team actually is in pretty good shape. We have our quarterback. We've basically got our plan heading in the right direction. So he might be going, with a good draft, we can really do something. Same thing with Detroit. You got Green Bay, who's, going into the Jordan Love era after they get finally whatever they do with Aaron Rodgers. You got Chicago, who maybe isn't ready, maybe is ready. You got the Vikings, who had a great season last year, but like we know, the things replicating a great season doesn't always happen. Things go right for you. You stay healthy. A lot of things go right. A lot of things can go wrong. So Detroit, which was so close and such a hot team late, man, if they do a good job in the draft, they could be a serious contender in their division.
And exactly, I agree with everything you just said, and that's what I was talking about earlier with the Seahawks. House money, right? They made the trade with Denver. Denver has just a god-awful season. The Seahawks get rewarded with the 5th pick in the draft. Same thing with the Lions. They made the trade for Matthew Stafford, and then the Rams fell apart and had one of the worst seasons they've had in years. And so the Lions get the 6th pick in the draft. Both these teams should sit right there, in my opinion, and they should take the best player on the board, whoever that is. And that's why I could see, I think the Seahawks really need the edge rusher a little bit more than the Lions. But I could see the Lions sitting right there and taking Jalen Carter if he's still available. I mean, let's be honest. I know that the offseason has been a disaster for this guy, but on the field, he's probably the best player in this whole draft. I mean, or at least he was throughout the season. So, I could see the Lions sitting right there, seeing who's there and just taking the best guy that's left. And I could see them grabbing maybe the best player in the entire draft, or definitely the highest rated player, who's Jalen Carter. Now, I would be a little bit concerned. I sent you that article.
Yeah.
The fact that the guy could not complete the drills at the pro day, that scares the hell out of me. The fact that he put on 13 pounds from the combine to the pro day, that scares the hell out of me. So those two things bother me tremendously. But let's be honest, he's not going to have to run 40-yard dashes throughout the season. I mean, he's going to play in the box as long as he can keep knocking the shit out of people on the line of scrimmage. He's going to be just fine. I don't think his stock is plummeted as far as people are saying. I think that the Lions are probably going to go ahead and take him right there at 6.
All right. Now we got the Raiders, who are the eternal mess. I mean, I'm hoping for the best for Jimmy G, just so he has a good year. But, you bring in Jimmy G, add him to that team. You give up your best tight end.
I was sitting here cringing, waiting for this to come up, because you know what? I have no idea what the Raiders are going to do. They've interviewed every quarterback that is coming out in this draft. They brought every quarterback to their facility and interviewed them. They only get to have 30 interviews or whatever it is, and they brought in every quarterback. They keep talking about how they wanted to do their due diligence. They wanted to potentially get a backup to groom under Jimmy G. And then today they come out and say they don't really have an interest in any quarterback.
No,
I'm like,
they're the worst run. They've gone from being one of, and Al Davis, I'm not going to say he was the best, but his teams, you knew they were doing things to try and win. They have totally taken that brand and just thrown it into the mud and said, who cares? Because Mark Davis, I swear they should do a paternity test on him, because he's nothing like his father.
Yeah, and that haircut, they should do some sort of test just to see what the hell's wrong.
And let's face facts. His father looked like he should be in Madame Tussauds House of Wax most of the time, but at least he had a style.
If the Raiders were smart, this is what I would say, okay? Because their biggest needs are corner and offensive line. And, the only way that you're going to have any type of success with Jimmy G is if you give him time to throw.
Right.
So if the Raiders were smart, which they're not, if they knew what they were doing, which they don't, they would sit there and they would take Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State and plug him in at left tackle, or plug him in at right tackle. And the guy last year did a decent job at left tackle. So let Paris start at the right and work his way over there. I don't care. But if they were smart, which they're not, if they knew what they were doing, which they don't, they should go and take Paris Johnson Jr. right there and solidify that offensive line, because that line has been a mess for years.
Either that or draft a punter, because you're probably going to need him. It's just, then we got the Falcons, another team. The Falcons and Bears kind of in the same boat. I mean, the Bears do have their quarterback, I think, in the future.
Yeah.
But everything else is about building the team around him. So, what do you think about the needs for those two?
Yeah, the Bears' need is everything. The Falcons really need, in my opinion, another wide receiver. They need a defensive tackle, and they need an edge player. If I was drafting for the Falcons at number 8, I would take Miles Murphy out of Clemson. This is a guy he started ever since day one. He's been productive. He's big. He's fast. He's strong. He's a difference maker. If I was the Falcons haven't had a disruptor on the outside since John Abraham left like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So they had the one season where Vic Beasley had 14 and a half sacks, and other than that, they've had Buckus at DN. So if they were smart and they knew what they were doing, I think they would go ahead and just sit right there and just take Miles Murphy. But this is another place where I could see them potentially taking Jalen Carter too, if he's still on the board, because they have needs on the inside of their defensive line as well. But I think D-line is where they're going to go, either pass rusher or interior.
All right, next is unique, the Eagles, who, they had some problems with a lot of free agents, but they made the Super Bowl and they got the number 10 pick.
Yep.
Not a bad situation. Where do you think their needs are going to be?
Honestly, they're another team just like the Seahawks and the Lions, where they can kind of sit here and take the best player available just to make their team better, because they're already a good team. With the guys that they lost, there are some needs. They just couldn't bring back everybody. But honestly, I thought they did pretty good, bringing back Brandon Graham, bringing back Fletcher Cox on a one-year deal. They got Bradbury back. They got Darius Slay to come back. I know that they probably need another pass rusher. They probably need another defensive back. But if I was making the pick, I would probably sit right there and I would take Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas. This guy is the real deal, in my opinion. Lots of people would tell me that's way too high to take a running back, but I have Bijan Robinson rated as a top 8 player, and I just don't think you can ignore how good this guy is. I mean, hell, Texas wasn't even that good most of the time he was there, and this guy still ran for 200 yards a game. I think he's a Pro Bowl player. I think he would fit perfect in that Eagles offense. I think that's where I would go if I was Howie Roseman.
And I love the people who sit there and they go, you can't take a running back that high. Yes, you can if you just made the Super Bowl and you got most of your team coming back.
Right, and they lost Miles Sanders, who was their number one rusher, and they're stacked. So why not take the best player and take a guy that can really make a difference for your team? And that to me is Bijan Robinson,
especially when you got everything else you need. Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
Titans. Mike Vrabel. I mean, we've talked about this, how much we like him. I don't know. I don't. The Titans, outside of Derrick Henry, I don't know what they have that's they don't need.
They're a mess. The Titans are an absolute mess. They have no quarterback, in my opinion. Tannehill's old. He's injury prone. He's not that good. Their offensive line is a mess. They don't have any pass rushers at all. Their wide receiver core is a disaster. Honestly, I think that, Taylor Lewan, their offensive tackle, retired just due to constant injuries. I really think that, they need to get an offensive lineman. I mean, whoever is going to play quarterback, they have to get somebody that can protect him. They signed Andre Dillard, the guy that the Eagles drafted several years ago and could never even get on the field. And to think that you solidified your line by signing Andre Dillard is an absolute joke. So I think they've got to get a tackle, and there's still going to be one available there where they're picking. So I think that would be probably the best thing to do if I was the Titans, is to at least go and get the best tackle available at that point. I think Paris Johnson will probably be gone at that. Where are they picking at again? Was it 11?
Yeah.
Johnson will probably be gone, but you've still got Skoronski, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. He should probably still be available. And then, worst case scenario, you could go down to Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle from Georgia, who is only a redshirt sophomore, and in my opinion is going to just keep getting better and better.
And then we talked about the Texans already, how they might use this for a quarterback if they go D. So we got that. Now we got the number 13, and this is where I want to hear your opinion, because this is what we talked about beginning with. The Jets are holding on to this pick. Give me 3 players that they could possibly get at that point that they need more than Aaron Rodgers.
Nobody.
Okay. So
that's why they should just trade this pick and take Aaron Rodgers. They're going to F it up anyway. They need an offensive tackle, but the only reason they need an offensive tackle is because they drafted one a couple years ago, and he can't even stay on the field because
Right.
he's 7 feet tall and 400 pounds, and he's always hurt.
Right.
So, if they stay here and they get to keep the pick, I think they should draft a tackle again and try it all over again. But as we just talked about, there's going to be a run on tackles. And I don't know if there's going to be a guy left available at that point that's worthy of the 13th pick. I just don't think there is. So give the damn pick to the Packers and
be done with it. Be done with it.
Just give it to them. You're not going to draft anybody good anyway.
And then after that, we got the Patriots. Now, there's a lot of rumbling. I don't know if you hear it down where you are. A lot of rumbling up here because, well, first of all, there's New England hatred from the New York area. But, man, I have never heard people, like vultures picking at a dead corpse with Belichick. Like, you'd think he'd been, winning 2 games the last 4 years. I mean, he's made the playoffs. He Mac Jones last year. Yeah, I think Belichick in a quiet moment, I don't think he'll come out to the press and say it. But I think at some point when he's writing his autobiography or whatever, he'll admit that bringing Matt Patricia in and Joe Judge and saying, you're my tandem awesome offensive coordinators was ridiculous. But, he's going to have Bill O'Brien up there with him to work with Mac Jones. I think that'll improve. Bill O'Brien knows Mac Jones. I think it can't help, but it will help him. Okay. Number 2 is this thought that Belichick can't coach anymore and can't pick talent anymore is ridiculous. He doesn't believe in draft choices that much. He'd rather have a slew of draft choices than one high draft choice.
Yeah, I do. Okay. I think he's done a phenomenal job considering he lost a 7-time Super Bowl winning quarterback and managed to keep the team in a winning mode, even though they lost the quarterback and they were up against it cap-wise. So the fact that he was able to continue winning games at a high clip.
And an all-pro tight end, which you would say too.
Yeah, exactly. In that division, that's pretty damn good.
Right.
I think is phenomenal. Now, do I think the Patricia move was the greatest decision ever? Probably not. But he's fixed it. He got Bill O'Brien to come back. I think Bill O'Brien's going to do a good job and take over the play calling, and that'll be that. But I think people are going to be surprised by the Patriots this year. I think they're going to compete in that division, and I think some people that think that Bill has lost his touch are going to be pleasantly surprised because I think they're going to sit right here at this draft pick. They're going to get who they need because they need a corner. I think they need a wide receiver, and they also need a tackle. So they did get Riley Reif, who can probably play on the offensive line, but I still think they need a lineman. They signed Mike Gesicki, who I think is a really good tight end for them, and I think is an upgrade over Jonnu Smith. And then they signed Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think will help this team. So I think they quietly made some good moves in the offseason. They re-signed Jonathan Jones. And I think they're going to get an offensive lineman right here, just like they did last year in Cole Strange. And I think they're going to be a lot better than people are giving them credit for.
All right, and then after that, we got the Packers, who, of course, they might be picking 13th and 15th, but they're another team. I mean, they've got some up-and-coming young guys that they showed last year at the end of the season. The wide receiver, a couple other people they've got. But it's all going to be the Jordan Love show now.
Yeah.
And right now at 13 and 15, what can the Packers, or just say at 15, what can the Packers bring in? What position can help him out the most?
To be honest with you, I would sit right here. I mean, unless they get the 13th pick and they get that from the Jets, they may package the picks and move up and do something crazy. But honestly, I think if it stands status quo and they sit right here at 15, some people might think this is a little bit high. I don't. I think they should stay right there and take Mayer, the tight end from Notre Dame. I think this is a guy who could really help Jordan Love. They already have, as you mentioned, some really good young wide receivers. They've got good running backs. The offensive line is pretty solid. I think if you add Mayer to this team, I think we can really see what Jordan Love has got, because this guy to me was the best tight end in all of college football, in my opinion, the last 2 or 3 years. And I just think I've got him rated probably higher than a lot of other people do. But I just think this dude is an unbelievable tight end. And to me, I think he's a difference maker. And if I were the Packers, that's who I would take.
All right. Then we got the Commanders, who are a mess.
Yeah, they need a lot, especially an owner.
They need an owner. They need a clue. I mean, it doesn't seem like they know what they've got. A lot of, I mean, they've got Chase Young. They've got a bunch of people. You're waiting for Chase Young to be healthy for a year. You're waiting for a lot of other things to happen with this team, and it never seems to happen. But right now, they don't seem to have a plan either. I mean, everything they do seems to turn into sand instead of gold.
Yeah. I just don't – I'm so confused how, you move off of Taylor Heineke, who they just kept waiting for him to fail. It was like they didn't want Taylor Heineke to be their quarterback, no matter what. They just refused to want him to be their quarterback. He would go out there, he would win the team over, he'd win the fans over, he would win games, and yet it still wouldn't be good enough. No. And then they have a chance down the stretch to make the playoffs. All they had to do was they had 2 games at home down the stretch to close the season. And what did they do? They pulled Taylor Heineke and put Carson Wentz back out there and, knocked themselves out of the playoffs. I got to be honest with you. I used to be a big Chico fan. I used to stick up for that guy a lot, but he's left me scratching my head about what the hell he's doing there. Maybe it's just because he's in Washington.
I'm going to go with it being Washington. I remember, hearing stories that, even when Joe Gibbs came back to try and help right the ship there, I mean, Snyder would be downtown having, scotches and cigars with Sonny Jurgensen and Billy Kilmer and all these old Redskins. And he'd walk into, Joe Gibbs' office and say, we came up with a good thing to do next week. Or he'd make a trade off of them having a couple of scotches and, whatever. That was one of the stories I heard circulating around. And you just can't run a team that way.
No. Well, apparently he is going to sell the team. And I know that Jim Irsay and Jerry Jones and a lot of the other guys are really upset because now they're all going to have to fight for the worst owner award because Daniel Snyder's gone.
Well, I think Irsay's got a big lead in that. Even though I'm not a Jerry Jones boy, man, you can't do worse than Irsay. No, Steelers, they got their quarterback of the future. It looks like they're the Steelers. They'll find something here, and everybody go, "Wow, where'd they come up with that?"
Yeah. No, I think the Steelers are, they're great. They're a great team at drafting. Now they do have a brand new, general manager. So. Yeah. I think, it's going to be a little bit different, but I think they're still going to do the right things because they're run the right way and it starts up top. Now, I do think they need to get a corner. And so I could see them sitting right here. My thing would be that they're going to go sit right here and take Joey Porter Jr. This kid is the real deal out of Penn State. His dad was a big-time Steeler. I think it would be really cool if they took him, and I really think they need him. So I think I think they would like to take Christian Gonzalez, the corner out of Oregon, but I feel like he'll be gone. So they're probably going to have to go to the next corner, who's either going to be Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois or, like I said, potentially Joey Porter Jr.
All right. We already talked about the Lions. Now we get the Buccaneers, where Baker Mayfield's going to try and reestablish his career. A team that was a playoff team in a bad division last year. 3 years now removed from the Super Bowl championship. Todd Bowles. It looks they've got a lot of pieces, but they don't have a lot of pieces. What do they have?
They moved on from Donovan Smith, who it looked like at the end of last year they needed to do so. This guy he was a holding machine. He just would grab guys, and that's really not what you're supposed to do at offensive tackles. So I think they need to get a tackle. I keep hearing that they're going to draft a quarterback. Well, they already drafted a quarterback. They've got Kyle Trask and they've got Baker Mayfield. I think they, if they were smart, they would not draft a quarterback, and they would draft something else. But I keep hearing people saying that their biggest need is quarterback, and
that's because they don't know what Trask is, and they've already made up their mind on Baker Mayfield.
Right. Well, I'm not one of those people. I like Kyle Trask and I like Baker Mayfield, so I think they should get a tackle.
Exactly. Seahawks we talked about. Now we got the Dolphins. I mean, the thing about the Dolphins is they're going all in on Tua, and I like Tua as a person, but man, he is one concussion away from serious problems, and he has always been injury prone. Yep. But they're sitting down there where what kind of quarterback can you get there anyways? I think they should have done some real soul searching in the offseason with the team they had. I think they should have kicked the tires on Derek Carr or Jimmy G. Yeah. And that's where they should have gone.
Well, they're the team that made the mistake of playing Tua after he was already concussed.
Right.
And then he got concussed again, and then, the rest is history. But they made the mistake of putting this guy that fell over back in the game and potentially ruining his career. So I agree with you. I think that now they're trying to save face and being like, oh, we're invested in this kid, when in reality, if he gets another hit, he's done.
Right.
But to answer your question, there is another quarterback that could potentially be available right here, and that is the kid out of Tennessee, Hendon Hooker. Why people are talking about Richardson and Levis more than they're talking about Hooker, I don't know. I know Hooker's got the injury, but he's definitely got a lot more tape than those two guys.
See, I would have thought, I have a feeling that Hooker's going to get taken somewhere up earlier and give me a surprise pick from somebody.
I do too.
I think, like you said, I mean, picture this, if you will. You got Hooker sitting there, and you're a team like Detroit, who we talked about. They have their quarterback, but they have 2 picks in the top 20. And they were only a couple of games short of a playoff. Could they maybe use the 18th spot and grab Hooker there?
Yeah, no, I could see that happening. I could see the Seahawks taking Hooker. I could see the Raiders taking Hooker. I think one of those teams that actually has a quarterback already in place is going to
perfect position for him
and let him sit for a year and get healthy.
Right. Maybe even 2 years, whatever. Yeah. When he's ready, he's ready. But it would be a great investment.
I agree.
All right. So after Miami, we talked about Miami. Let's see. We got the Chargers. They kind of went in all last year and came up a little short. Yeah. They're always, the thing about the Chargers is they have to get a real look in the mirror and say, not what do we have to do to get better, to make the Super Bowl. What do we have to do to get better than the Chiefs? What do we need? Because their first step, they can't do anything until they get that division away from the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I don't know what they're going to do to get better than the Chiefs. The Chiefs have a better quarterback, and the Chiefs have a better coach, and that's the 2 most important things. Now, the Chargers quarterback's really good. I'm not so sure about their coach. I used to stick up for his ass until he blew that 33-point lead, and now I'm done with him. I would have fired his ass as soon as that game ended. But if I was their general manager and I was picking right here, I would get a wide receiver. Okay, Keenan Allen is good, but he's always hurt. He's old. He's long in the tooth. They lost, one of their better, reserved wide receivers in free agency, and Mike Williams has an injury history.
Right.
So this was a different team when Keenan Allen was healthy and out on the field, and Mike Williams was healthy and out on the field. The Chargers could win any game and beat anybody. When those 2 guys or one of them wasn't out there, they were different. So if I was the Chargers, I would sit right there and I would take the best wide receiver available, whether that is the kid out of Ohio State, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Buckeye fan. I'm saying that because he's legit. I like Zay Flowers out of Boston College. But, if I were them, I would take one of those young, talented wide receivers and add them to this offense so that they can continue to score points.
And then we got the Ravens, the ravenous Ravens, the cavernous Ravens, should I say, who, it's all Lamar looks like he's going to be back. I mean, time is ticking. They go out and they get OBJ. Is Dobbins ever going to be a full season running back? Where do they need? They got a great tight end. Do they go defense? They go offense? I mean, what's their answer here?
Once again, they need wide receivers. I mean, I don't think signing OBJ to a 1-year contract is going to fix their wide receiver problems. It's not. So they need to, as I said, Bateman's good. He showed some promise. He also showed that he gets hurt every 6 games. So I feel like they need a wide receiver, and I also feel like they need a corner. Marcus Peters is not under contract at this point. He's still available. He's on the street. And Marlon Humphrey needs some help on the other side. So I think, the Ravens either need to draft a wideout or a corner with this spot, depending on who's there and who's who's the better player. We already talked about the corners that are available, in the first round. The Gonzalez, I've got a first round grade on out of Oregon. Witherspoon out of Illinois, as I mentioned, I've got a first round grade on. And then also the third corner, that's where it gets kind of questionable. A lot of people, as I mentioned, Joey Porter Jr. is probably up there close, but it starts to drop off, in my opinion, a little bit after Porter. So if those three corners are gone, I don't know what you do. Do you go to DJ Turner, the kid out of Michigan, or do you take an edge rusher, because you can always use one of those. I think that they still need to upgrade that offensive line a little bit. They just haven't been the same since the injury to the kid from Stanley, Ronnie Stanley, the kid from Notre Dame. Since he went down with injury, he has never really come back.
Right. Vikings. Here's a team, the eternal quandary. The Vikings is, they had a great year last year. They seemingly got everything they need. They got a star running back. They got the best wide receiver in football, depending on who's poll and what week. They're explosive. They got everything going for them, but they have Kirk Cousins, and they're not in a place where they can really get a quarterback. So you're stuck with Kirk Cousins. And what can they bring in that could possibly tilt the field towards them?
I think they need some more help on defense. I really do. I think they need to get a linebacker for sure, difference maker on defense. I mean, they won a lot of really close games, but, this is also a team that lost Adam Thielen to free agency, or they released him, honestly, and they need to upgrade the wide receiver 2 spot. They could definitely draft a wide receiver right here. Lots of people think the Vikings may take Hendon Hooker, let him learn a year under Kirk Cousins, and then have his replacement, because I really don't think they want to give Kirk Cousins another contract.
I don't blame him.
This year. And his contract, they can get out from under it next year. So I could see them drafting a quarterback, but honestly, I think linebacker or wide receiver is the best spot for them to go.
Now, here's a very intriguing team. The Jags overachieved last year. They have their quarterback of the future. That's fine. They have a coach now. That can build them. They are sitting in the catbird seat in this division, which, let's face facts, Texans a mess, Titans on their way down, Colts a mess. If they do a good job in this draft with what they've got already there, they could set themselves up for the next 5 years to dominate that division.
I agree. I mean, I think this division is there. I mean, the Colts are a mess. Titans are a mess. The Texans are a joke. This is a really, really good time for the Jaguars to emerge. To be honest with you, I feel like they need another lineman after losing Jawan Taylor. They do have Walker Little, who could potentially step in, but they still need depth at that position. And then I feel like they're going to
they're going to need to get a corner as well. I mean, a lot of these teams need corners, and they're just not that many. The one guy that I have pegged right here, who I think will still be available and who I think the Jaguars should get, is Kylie Ringo, the corner out of Georgia. This is a kid who can play. He's played at the highest level. He didn't have as good of a year last year as he did the year before, but I've seen enough. And I know this guy can play, and I think he'd be a good fit on the Jaguars defense. I'd take Kylie Ringo if I'm the Jaguars.
And next we got my Giants, another team that overachieved last year and got to this spot faster than expected. Hearing some rumbling about Saquon not signing his tender sheet or whatever. If he does that, I think it'd be a gigantic mistake for him. I understand what I mean. I understand the money issue, and I've never had someone come in and offer me $12 million to do anything. And I understand they all want the big money. But if you think about it, if you're Saquon Barkley, and what are we talking about? $3 million?
Well, the problem is that he wanted 16, okay? He wasn't going to get 16. The Giants offered him 12, and then he didn't take it. And then they signed Jones, the quarterback. So then they were like, okay, well, we'll just tag you. So he screwed himself.
Right.
And, I don't know what he's doing now. I mean,
my whole thing is coming from around here, being a lifetime Giant fan. I know one thing, and one thing only. If you're worried about this $4 million, Saquon, you're going to make it on the back end as a celebrity around here. You look at the guys that come out of here, their lives are set for being ex-Giants for the rest of their lives. They get jobs in media. They get jobs on Wall Street. They got jobs doing this and that and the other. You'll make that money back, Saquon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just be a good Giant.
Yeah. Go around and do some appearances and you'll get the money. And you could just walk around New York City every day and get paid for being there.
Right.
I don't know. He doesn't have any leverage. He's a freaking running back, and he means more to the Giants than he would any other team.
Right.
So I no one wants to pay him what he wants, and he can choose to sit out, I guess. But ask old Le'Veon Bell how that worked out.
Yeah, that worked really good for him.
So I think he'll show up. And if I'm the Giants right now, they lost Julian Love. I think they need a playmaker on the back end to help that secondary. If I am them, I sit right there and I take Jordan Battle, the safety out of Alabama. This is a guy he can cover. He can do pretty much everything. And I just think he fits what they do on defense.
And now we have the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, and, who knows what he's going to pick. I mean, he got Stephon Gilmore, so he's won the title. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm not as excited about that as other people are. But he was the defensive player of the year like 6 years ago. So that's good. But I think that the Cowboys, you watch, they could sit right where they are and end up potentially getting Bijan Robinson to fall in their lap. As I mentioned, I think the Eagles should take them where they are, but they probably won't just because it's so high. I could see the Cowboys sitting right there and getting Zeke's replacement and getting an upgrade in Bijan Robinson.
And then we got the Buffalo Bills, who, they are sitting, their window's closing. This window, Josh Allen's set. They got their quarterback. That's fine. I love their coach. But the fact of the matter is their window is closing. They got to make some moves. They got to do something because obviously last year it was running in place. It wasn't that like they took a big step back, but they were running in place. And they're another team. Now they've won divisions. They dominate their division, but they're another team. They got to figure out how they beat the Chiefs.
Yeah,
and,
no doubt. And I think they need I think they need a playmaker. They lost Edmonds, who was kind of their quarterback of their defense and a big time playmaker. And I think they can upgrade that position, to be honest with you, if they can sit right where they're at and let Jack Campbell fall in their lap. This guy, wow. I don't know. I haven't seen, this is one of the best linebackers I've seen in the last 10 years.
And that's hard for me to say, but this dude can do it all. And then he goes to the combine and tears it up. Running well, benching well, testing well, 3-cone drill, whatever you want. This guy can do everything. I mean, he won the Butkus Award. He was one of the best defensive players in all of football. He's 6'5", 250, so he can play the run. He's not a liability in coverage. He jumped 40 inches. I just don't know what the hell you could possibly want a linebacker that Jack Campbell doesn't have. So that's who I would do if I was the Bills, is draft Jack Campbell and make my team better.
Now we got the Bengals coming up, and the Bengals lost some defensive players this year. What do you think about the Bengals?
Yeah, man, they lost both safeties. That's a big problem because their safeties were a big part of what their defense did. And they lost them both. I thought they might lose one, but I didn't think they'd lose them both. They lost Jesse Bates and they lost Von Bell. So that's a big problem. They also lost Hayden Hurst, their tight end. So I could see them either getting a safety to replace Jesse Bates or potentially getting the tight end to replace Hayden Hurst. And honestly, I told you I liked the kid from Notre Dame Mayer, but I also like Kincaid, the other tight end from Utah. He is not very far off from Mayer. So if I was drafting there, I don't know if there's a safety that depending on if another one goes, if Battle potentially goes to the Giants, like we just talked about, then I could see them taking Dalton Kincaid from Utah and just helping Joe Burrow just that much more.
There's a little bit of the next team. There's a little bit of a slap here. I just like the Saints had such an up and down bad year last year, really, and they only get to pick two places. 2 places later, the Chiefs are picking. I mean, what are the Saints going to get at this point?
Hopefully a new coach because that guy's a moron. I mean, I'm sorry, but he blew like 5 or 6 games that they should have won. And, they lost some guys on their D line. They lost Onimata. They lost Shai Tuttle. And, that was the strength of their team was their defense. So I really feel like they need to add somebody up front. And to me, at that position where they're drafting, I would take the kid out of Pittsburgh, Yancey. That dude tore up the combine. He's kind of a little bit of a different player in the sense that he's got a little bit of a different body. 6 feet 300, but he ran a 4.5 40 and production galore at Pittsburgh. So I'm not saying he's the next coming of Aaron Donald, but he sure as hell looks a lot like him, and he plays kind of like him. So that's what I would do if I was the Saints.
And the last 2 picks, the Chiefs get another first-round pick, or the Eagles get another first-round pick, which is nice. And like you said, whatever's available on the board, that best athlete available, someone you think it may be a bit of a project or not a project, whatever, they're in good shape. The Chiefs, I mean, is there any need the Chiefs really have to address?
Not really. They
got depth at running back. They got depth at wide receiver. They got the best quarterback, like you said. Best tight end, maybe ever. Don't know.
Ever. I say ever. I mean, the only thing that they really need to draft would be, they drafted an edge player last year in Karlaftis out of Purdue. Yeah, he was okay, but they released Frank Clark, and so they're going to need somebody else to come in the rotation. Which edge rusher is still going to be there at that point, I don't know. But honestly, I like the kid out of Georgia Tech, Keon Clark, who transferred from Old Dominion. I think he fits what the Chiefs do on defense. He's a Spagnuolo type guy, hard worker, good talent. I think they can stay right where they are and have one of those pass rushers like Clark fall right to him.
All right. Well, that's our first look at the draft. We'll go really in depth next week. We got a lot going on. You got a show coming up on Sunday?
Not this week. No, we're going to take another week off, and then we'll do some. We're going to do like kind of a recap of the spring games, probably next week.
All right. All right. So, well, it's like one of those weird times of the year. We got the draft coming up. We have basketball playoffs. We got hockey playoffs. We got baseball underway. We got we got a lot of things going on right now and getting ready for what's going to be, as usual, a very interesting off season coming with the NFL, especially after the draft. And it's going to be really, I tell you, I hope all the Jet fans are putting their sharp objects away so they don't stab themselves if there's nothing done before draft day.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, I think it could happen on draft day. I think maybe they'll swap picks and then give up the Jets will end up giving up their second round. That's kind of what I see happening. I think that's what we're waiting on. I think that's what the holdup is. I think it's going to be a draft day trade. I think they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. They're going to get their 13. Their Jets will move back to 16, and then they're going to get the Jets second rounder. That's what I think is going to happen.
Just for Christ's sake, just get it done. I'm sick of hearing about it.
I am too. I told you that 4 weeks ago.
All right, my friend. We'll be back on Thursday next week as long as my boss lets me out on time. Thanks, everybody, tuning in tonight, and we will be back. Have a great weekend, and, hey, try and stay cool. No one expected this heat right now.
No doubt.
Talk to you later.
Sounds good, buddy.